Multiple samples will be one of the more confusing parts of the Qualtrics survey and the coding process. It's going to be to your benefit to really read through what's here in Qualtrics and in the syllabus to help guide you. Probably fairly often you'll have to appeal to your teaching assistant or to an advanced coder to get a second opinion on whether an article contains multiple samples or not. Multiple samples is mostly what it sounds like. There will be research articles that will have collected more than one sample, or they will have collected a sample that they can separate into distinctive groups. It's not so homogeneous. Multiple samples is usually indicated by a separate breakdown and demographics that are reported for a collected sample. A research study can report that there were different collection methods for creating one sample to conduct an analysis on. There can also be multiple studies within a single research article that is published, or there could even be a breakdown of a specific subset of a sample that a statistical analysis can be conducted on. There aren't really any hard and fast rules besides looking for multiple recruitment methods or different demographic breakdowns in a method section reporting on sample characteristics. We're going to look at two examples here. The first one will be removing barriers. In this article down in the method section, it talks about their participant recruitment, how survey data was collected by 3 separate organizations. So these 3 separate samples were combined into one larger sample, and then a single statistical analysis was conducted on all 3 samples to provide research findings. This would be an example of multiple samples because there were more than one recruitment method that were used. The second article, when mothers have serious mental health problems. Coming down to the method section, we'll see that it was actually 2 separate studies that they're combining data from into this current research article. So there was one study that collected the women, the mother sample, and a second companion study that collected teenage children as another sample. So that would be an example of having 2 different samples within one research study. And if you look through, there's a little bit of demographic information reported for both groups, and that's also an easy indicator. Won't always be in separate tables. Sometimes there will just be summary statistics, such as in this case. If this research study had collected just the one sample of the mothers and their teenagers at the same time and still did the study, there is a chance that it could still be multiple samples, and you would need to discuss that with your TA or an advanced coder. So once we have determined whether we have an article with multiple samples or not, we'll choose one of these options. In the rare case that there's absolutely no demographic information, possibly other than just a sample size or maybe a recruitment method, you'll choose that there was no demographic information reported. But if there were multiple samples or only one sample to report demographics for, that will be important, as we will be coding this demographic information into the rest of the survey. And depending if there are multiple samples, we're going to recode a specific part of the sample and then leave the rest for advanced coders. So if we do indicate that there are multiple samples, Qualtrics will pull up this little box and statement on the next page. Will not be here if you select there's only one demographic sample. So in this box, you'll need to explain why there was multiple samples in the article is being coded. So for example, in this first example article, removing barriers, we would simply say there was 3 different samples that were recruited differently through different organizations, and that would be good enough. Or you could say something as simple as there were 3 different samples that were recruited. For our religious coping article, we have only one sample that was collected from the Pacific Northwest region. There's no indication that there were different recruitment methods to combine different population samples into one for an analysis. So for our article, we would only say there's only one sample to report demographics for.